morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Suffolk Business Live. My name is Craig Sennett, and with me today is Chris Barnard from Barnard Training. Thanks very much for coming in, Chris.
You're welcome. Thanks
for those of you that don't know, Chris's background is within training. You've been in training how long now?
20 odd years. Only the last 10 years as an independent consultant, but certainly 20 odd years.
And prior to that, you were in the military.
That's correct.
Yeah. How long were you in the military for, actually?
Just under 20 years.
All right. So yeah, you've
had
your good. Yeah. With the with the show here, a lot of what we do is talk about what it's like running a business in Suffolk and stuff like that. And I know you're very well known within the local business community. You've been around for a while, shall we say? What sort of things have you seen within business locally? What, for example, what interests you in business locally and what doesn't? Is there anything immediately sort of spring to mind?
In terms of what interests me, I quite like the whole concept of meeting local businesses that have sort of tried it and done it and tested it and worked out that actually running a business isn't as easy as you think it is, but they come out the other side because they put in the effort to develop themselves as business owners. Some of the networking groups that I go to, for example, you can get large business, small business, but there is a certain niche of business people that just get it. And I think that's what really interests me, is seeing the light bulb moments go on and these guys just get it and their businesses go flying.
Well, I don't think anyone gets it from the start.
No.
You go through that, great, we've got some business in, we make some money, oh God, it's gone wrong, we've now not got anything in the sales pipeline. What are we going to do? And I think there are always, as you rightly say, it's a really, really valid point. There are winners and losers, but there are people where they sit and think, yeah, I've just got it.
I went through that process myself, where I started off. I was a trainer basically, and thought, I'm sure I can do better out there. We were hiring in trainers that weren't as good as we expected them to be. As I worked for a large corporate insurance company, and we just weren't getting the trainers. I thought, I'm sure I can supply better trainers out there, and it was a simple model, but actually it was much tougher than we first thought. We needed to make the contacts, build the relationships, have the sales pipeline, make sure our marketing was correct and hitting the right type of the right marketplace, and that was tough. And
when you're out on your own, you put your banker accounts,
maker,
sales, marketing, T-boy, and
lots of hats.
And it is, and funnily enough, when you're an employee, you have your parameter that if you're a sales guy, you're there to do sales. If you don't understand something marketing-wise, you go and badger the marketing guy. If you don't understand, the accounts, you go and talk to the girl in accounts and stuff. Or you don't even need to know about these other things; they just magically appear. Yet when you're on your Jack Jones, it's very different. Yeah,
you don't have a sort of a natural business acumen. Some people do. I didn't. I had to learn from the bottom up and realise that actually, running a business is more than just having a passion about what you like and what you enjoy. And my passion obviously is training, is developing people, seeing them succeed. But that's not enough in business. You have to understand how the business works. Understand your P&L and so on and so forth. And actually, that was an area that with one of my businesses that failed us miserably. But out of that, we've learned an awful lot of lessons, and consequently, we're now back on track. So, as long as you stick with it. Some people give up when they hit the hard times. They give up. But if you've got a direction and you know where you're going, then you tend to sort of fight through, and that's what we do.
Some of the presentations that I've done fairly recently, one of the biggest things when I've been talking about traits that I see in people that succeed in business is, for me, the biggest thing is endurance. Whether you need to adapt or you don't, whether you follow down one route or you don't, it's just that sustainability. And I think it's very easy for people when you're doing very well to take foot off gas. And then you think, I've got no working, what's going on? And the bank balance each month,
it's consistency as well.
It's tickling down. Yeah, it is. And I mean, endurance is such a broad category, but it's about doing the things that got you where you are, but also keeping an eye on future trends. Is there new technology that can come in that can save me time doing this? If I bring it in, am I losing the people aspect? Because that is ultimately, I run a recruitment business, you run a training business. People are our
Integral.
business.
Absolutely.
Whether it's clients, customers, suppliers. What type of training is it? You yourself feel most comfortable delivering?
That's a good question. I think in terms of my preferred expertise, management development is a key aspect that I'm involved in. I'm running 2 specific programs with a global finance company and also with a local insurance company. They're multi-million pound companies, but nevertheless their management teams need developing, and that's where I'm comfortable. But we're doing accredited programs. We're not doing these quick fix, run a day's training and then hopefully that's the answer to everything. Absolutely. We don't do that. That's not what we do. We advocate a process of development over a period of time, which really runs the learning home. It embeds it within them. It even changes behaviours and so on and so forth, so they become much more effective people in the workplace. So that's one area. And going down to sort of the basics of business, customer service is a real passion of mine. And getting people to deliver customer service excellence to their external and internal customers is an integral part of being a successful business, in my opinion.
For me, customer service has got worse in the last 5 years across everywhere. I mean, I went to India, to Goa, recently, a few years back, family holiday, and I've never experienced customer service like that. It got to a point where it was borderline invasive because they wouldn't let you do anything because the culture out there is that you are the guest. But it really sort of hammered home to me just how lousy it is in this country now. And the ability to return calls seems to have eroded. People sending emails and even misuse of grammar. I'm not particularly great at it, but something that really bugs me is when you get an email back from someone when you've raised an issue with someone, you get something back and they put a lot of full stops. To me that indicates impatience or you should know this or something. And you think, wait a minute, it's you that have caused the issue here, so don't imply impatience with me. I'm your customer.
Yeah.
And
I think people forget, as also an intermediary between associate trainers and my business, I put out associate trainers. Sometimes the associates forget who the customer is, and I'm the customer, and they forget that.
Yeah.
You're putting business their way, but it's my job to make sure that we understand that the customer process is as it should be. So I believe in delivering top-notch customer service to my customers. I'll bend over backwards, and it's down to me to make that relationship work. As far as I'm concerned,
salespeople suffer with that problem as well. Where if you say a car dealership, I'm selling a fleet of 3 or 4 cars to a client who's a business client, and quite often the salesperson will side with the client and forget who their employer is.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, why can't we give it to them for next to nothing? Because and stuff like
that.
And it is. It's a very unusual thing. But with your own sort of training that you've delivered and stuff like that, I mean, how have you found that you've changed in the way you deliver? Have you changed much in the way you deliver your training, or?
I think some of the subjects that I deliver on do tend to change. For give you an example, I developed a homeworking program for a borough council, which was rolled out across the whole business, and also for their managers on how to manage people that work from home. And I found that actually it taught me an awful lot about how I should be working at home and improving my discipline. And because my office is at home now, I'm actually much more disciplined and much more able to do what I need to do, and I don't get distracted, whereas before I used to. So actually developing that program, likewise developing sales programs, for example, has taught me an awful lot about how you should build your sales and marketing strategy.
Reminded you of what you should be doing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's easy to do, do as I say, not as I do sort of thing. Yeah.
Very easy to do, actually.
With obviously the training industry itself, whenever there's a downturn in the economy, and we're still in one, whatever way we look at it, it's probably going to be a fair few years, I think, before we return to the heights of pre-2008. But during a downturn, certain industries, my industry, and I know yours will, and others will suffer as well. People roll back advertising spend, marketing spend, capital finance and stuff like that. with the training industry, are you starting to see things start to creep up again locally, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Categorically. That's the. Actually, I'm surprised at how quickly we are starting to see a return to people putting a little bit more into the development of their people, because there is that whole, as you rightly say, they cap the spend, but people need to be developed. They need to be trained. For businesses to be successful, they've got to have effective people within their businesses, and the way to do that, partly, is to make sure they're trained and developed accordingly. But I'm seeing a return to at least people spending and committing to more
Reoccurring training,
training,
a program rather than a one-off quick fix.
Yeah, which actually, when the downturn really hit, that's a lot of what we end up doing. These one-day, and no matter how much you try to get them to run a program, it was all down to budgets, and which is a shame, because training should be bought on value in terms of what it adds to the business, as opposed to just on price. Because if we get into a battle on price on these types of things, it devalues the whole concept of what training and development is about.
It's interesting, because my own industry, the recruitment industry, I've been in it 14, 15 years, and almost no training, almost none, and if it is, it's delivered by the guy that you report to anyway, and it's you learn his way of doing it or her way of doing it. And whilst that may be right for him or her, it's not necessarily always the right personality fit for you. And I mean, do you find that, so what would be a standard type format you would deliver? Would it be, is it kind of, a number of delegates, or is it more one-to-one that you guys, that you're seeing emerge locally?
Oh, I see what you mean. I mean, it does depend on the need of the business, and I'm a great believer in analysing in partnership with the customer what they need. So we could end up with a mixture of delegate type training workshops or one-to-ones, depending on the needs. But it's varying, really. I suppose if I was to think about the last 6 months, most of my work has been doing one-to-one training with sort of senior managers. I'm working with a freight forwarding company, for example, where their senior manager, their operations manager, is suffering from lack of assertiveness when it comes to getting his sales teams, his export and import teams, to do and hit the targets. So we're looking at performance management programs specifically for him to be able to chunk that down to his staff. So there are there's quite a lot of that out there at the moment.
Ironically, with taking that as an example, there's a fair bit to be said for company ethoses. Some companies welcome training, some don't. But also, if you start implementing, I've been in places where someone's tried to implement a performance management thing, and you can kind of almost hear the whole sales think, oh, not again, or this, we'll be doing this for 2 weeks and then be back to normal, sort of thing. And one of the things I think that's really importantly missed with that is the buy-in by the staff. And and the easy option is, if you do as you're shown, if you need help, ask for it. If you follow this process, you'll make more money. Do you want more money? Yes, right.
It's understanding what makes the salesperson tick as well. I mean, if their driver, and generally speaking, you'd hope that a salesperson, their drivers would be money.
It's not always, sadly.
Yeah, absolutely. But if it is that driver, then if you've tapped into that, then managing their performance is much easier in terms of reward and recognition, for example.
A lot of the stuff I've written about sales and things, and and I've taught myself, a lot of it's begged, borrowed and stole from other people, and and I think that's fair to say. Yeah, I think it's fair to say anything. It's the best form of flattery in that. But I remember years ago being told, do you want a £2,000 pay rise? Yes. Well, do as you're told. Do this, and you'll make more commission. That's equivalent to £2,000 pay rise. I thought, actually, yeah, when you break it down, and that tapped into what I wanted, because I could see things that I could spend that extra money on. So ultimately, as a young age, that got my buy-in. Do you do much training with younger people?
Generally speaking, it's been at the corporate level, large corporate companies that have a established workforce. But just recently, I've been working with public sector companies, with people that are getting back into work.
Which will be interesting.
Which actually has been a bit of an eye-opener, I have to say, because some people want to work and some people don't. But if they get offered the help, and some people are out of work because of work, circumstances, but you give them the opportunity and you suddenly see these people start to grow.